Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission today, well, it's to unpack a whole stack of sources, all focused on a really timeless topic, building wealth.
Yeah, and we've got some fascinating material here. It covers everything from the absolute basics, daily habits, all the way to goal setting, investing.
Personal growth, risk,
Yeah,
even giving back.
exactly. And reviewing your plans too. It's pretty comprehensive.
So the goal for us in this deep dive is really to pull out those key nuggets of wisdom, help you understand this whole process of accumulating assets, achieving real financial security. It's more than just a big paycheck or, getting lucky with stocks.
That's exactly it. What these sources really highlight is that building wealth, it's a journey, a structured one. And they really emphasize right from the start that the small things, the daily habits are absolutely key, foundational.
Okay, foundational. Let's start there then.
Yeah.
What's the absolute core idea, the main distinction the sources make?
Well, they really, really hammer home the difference between assets and liabilities, and not just like the dictionary definition,
Right.
but what it means for actually building wealth. The focus shifts from just earning money to actively acquiring things that, put money in your pocket.
Yeah.
Assets.
Instead of things that just take money out liabilities.
Precisely. So the goal isn't just a big bank balance. It's strategically building up those assets.
What kind of assets are we talking about? What do the sources point to?
Things like real estate that brings in rent, stocks that might pay dividends or grow in value, or even, building a side business that eventually generates passive income.
Income that keeps coming in without you having to constantly work for it.
Yeah, exactly. Productive elements, things that work for you.
Okay. That distinction feels like a really solid starting point.
Yeah.
Beyond just knowing what an asset is, what else is crucial foundational knowledge, according to these sources?
Financial literacy, it comes up again and again. They stress that you have to keep learning about investment options, market trends, managing your own finances. It's not optional.
It's not just about balancing your checkbook.
Not at all. It's about making informed decisions. That's what leads to long-term accumulation. You need that knowledge base.
Okay, so target assets, build financial literacy.
Yeah.
Got it. Now, you mentioned daily habits are pivotal. Why so much focus on the mundane, the routine?
Because wealth, generally speaking, isn't built overnight, right? It's built through consistent, disciplined actions over time. These sources argue that developing those solid daily routines, well, it almost makes success inevitable. It creates the right environment.
Through repetition and consistency. Okay, so what specific daily habits do they really highlight?
Taking a few minutes, literally just a few minutes each day, for budgeting and tracking expenses. Sounds basic, I know.
But powerful.
Incredibly powerful. That daily check-in creates this constant awareness. It shines a spotlight on maybe unnecessary spending you wouldn't even notice otherwise, and that leads to better decisions all day long.
Daily awareness, I like that. What else? What other non-negotiable daily habits?
Investing time in learning. Setting aside even, say, 15-30 minutes a day to read, listen to something relevant, maybe work on a skill related to wealth building or your career.
Knowledge compounds, like money.
Exactly. The sources see it as a daily investment in yourself, and it pays off in opportunities down the line.
What about connecting with people? Is that a daily thing too?
That's framed a bit differently, more like a purposeful weekly habit. Actively connecting with like-minded people, professionals. The idea is these connections aren't just social. They can genuinely open doors or give you critical insights.
Interesting. And spending itself, how does that fit into the daily routine?
Mindful spending. Basically, thinking before you buy. Making sure purchases actually align with your bigger financial goals. Resisting those impulse buys. It's a daily discipline, really, and that expense tracking helps reinforce it.
Okay, this is where it gets good. The sources share a story about this, right? Someone who actually turned things around with these habits.
They do. It's a really compelling account of a friend who felt, totally stuck financially. And her breakthrough, it came from just committing to tracking every single expense, every day, for a month.
Just tracking.
Just tracking. And that daily awareness, it revealed all these small leaks, things she hadn't noticed. By plugging those leaks, she freed up money she then invested in and starting a little side business.
And that grew.
Yeah, eventually it grew to generate some pretty significant passive income for her. It wasn't one big lottery win. It was the cumulative effect of that daily discipline.
Wow. That really shows how small, consistent actions build that foundation. Okay, so you've got the foundation, the daily habits. Where do you direct that energy? What's next?
Well, that's the thing, right? Energy without direction is just activity. If you don't have clear financial goals, you're just sort of drifting.
Hmm.
So the sources position goal setting as your roadmap. It gives purpose to all those daily habits.
And the big advantage of having that roadmap, that destination.
Motivation. Simple as that. Knowing why you're doing it, saving for a house, your kids' education, retirement, whatever it is that gives you the drive. The commitment to stick with the budget, make the smart choices, especially when it gets tough.
The sources mention a specific way to set goals, the SMART criteria.
Yes, SMART goals. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And the key point isn't just remembering the acronym.
It's how it changes things.
Exactly. It transforms these vague wishes, like, I want to save more, into actual concrete plans you can act on.
Can you give us that example they use, the concrete one?
Sure. Instead of just, I want to save money, a SMART goal becomes something like, I will save $10,000 for a down payment on a house within the next 5 years by putting aside $167 every month. See? Suddenly it's real,
Right.
trackable.
Much more powerful. And goals aren't all the same size or time frame, are they? The sources talk about long-term versus short-term.
Yeah, they stress that you really need both. They serve different but equally important purposes. Short-term goals, usually things you aim for in under a year.
Like an emergency fund.
Exactly. Maybe building that first $1,000 emergency fund.
Right.
Or paying off a high-interest credit card in, say, 6 months. Or saving for a specific vacation. These give you quick wins.
Quick wins sound good for morale.
They really are. They build your confidence, reinforce the good habits. Then you have the long-term goals 5 years or more out. That's the bedrock. Retirement savings in a 401k or IRA, funding college, building a serious investment portfolio for passive income later on.
And there's a personal story in the material about how these two connect too.
Yes, someone shared that setting and actually hitting a short-term goal saving for a big trip. It unexpectedly built this financial discipline they didn't have before. And that success, that feeling of control, it naturally led them to start thinking bigger, to seriously plan and commit to the much larger long-term goal of saving for retirement. It shows how mastering the small stuff paves the way for the big stuff.
Building on success. Makes sense. Okay, goals are set. Now for the plan, the blueprint, budgeting and tracking.
Absolutely. The sources frame budgeting not as restriction, but as like consciously telling your money where to go based on your goals. It's your personal map. And it's not set in stone. It has to be adaptable.
So how do you build this map? What are the steps the sources outline?
First step, gather everything. All your income sources, your regular bills, have a realistic idea of your typical spending. Just get the full picture.
Know the terrain.
Exactly. Second, categorize your expenses. They suggest the classic fixed like rent, mortgage, insurance, things that don't change much month to month, and variable groceries, eating out, entertainment, stuff that fluctuates. This shows you where you have flexibility.
Where you can potentially make changes. Okay, then how do you decide how much goes where?
They suggest using the 50-30-20 rule as a starting point, a guideline, not a strict law, but a good reference. So roughly 50% of your income for want needs the essentials like housing, food, utilities.
Okay.
Then 30% for wants, that's the discretionary stuff, the fun stuff. And a really crucial 20% allocated specifically to savings and paying down debt.
Let's use that $3,000 monthly income example from the source to make it super clear.
Okay, so with $3,000 a month, that 50-30-20 guideline would look like about $1,500 for needs, $900 for wants, and importantly, $600 going straight towards savings and debt repayment. It gives you targets.
But like you said with habits, just making the budget isn't enough. You have to track to make sure you're actually following it, right?
Absolutely critical. Tracking your spending after you've set the budget, that's non-negotiable according to these sources. It's how you monitor yourself. It ensures you stay within your limits. But maybe more importantly, it instantly shows you where you might be going off track so you can correct course.
Find the leaks. And
Yeah.
what tools do they suggest for this? Apps? Spreadsheets?
They mention both. Budgeting apps, simple spreadsheets. The specific tool doesn't matter as much as the consistency, just doing it regularly.
And is there a rhythm to it beyond just daily awareness?
Yeah, they suggest layering it. Maybe daily logging, just jotting things down for that immediate awareness. Then a weekly review, quickly check in, see if you're on track for the week.
Catch problems early.
Right. And then monthly summaries. Look at the whole month. Analyze the trends in different categories and use that info to tweak your budget for the next month.
There's another personal story about this, isn't there? About the power of actually seeing the numbers.
There is. Someone started using a simple spreadsheet, thought they had a decent handle on things. But when they looked at the monthly summary, boom, the amount going to dining out was way higher than they realized.
Ouch.
Yeah. But seeing that number in black and white, that was the motivation. They cut back significantly, started cooking more, and saw their savings rate jump almost immediately.
That's powerful. Okay, budgeting and tracking, managing the money. But building wealth means making that money grow, investing wisely.
Right. And this is where the sources introduce diversification, not just as a fancy term, but as a really fundamental principle for building resilience in your investments.
Spreading things out. Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Basically, yes. Deliberately spreading your investments across different types of assets, maybe different countries, different industries. The goal is to avoid having your entire financial future tied to the fate of just one thing.
Why is that so important? What's the real benefit they highlight?
Primarily, it's about risk reduction. If one part of your portfolio tanks, say, tech stocks take a hit, the other parts, maybe bonds or real estate, can cushion the blow. Different assets react differently to market changes.
So it smooths out the ride a bit.
It can, yeah. And it also gives you potential for growth across different areas. You're not betting on just one horse.
What kind of diversification strategies do they talk about, beyond just stocks and bonds?
Well, they mention varying asset classes. Stocks, bonds, real estate are the main ones. But they also touch on potentially exploring alternatives, things like commodities, maybe even cryptocurrencies, but always cautiously understanding the risks.
And geographically?
Yes, geographical diversification, investing outside your home country. And within stocks, sector diversification, making sure you're not just loaded up on, say, tech stocks, but also have exposure to healthcare, utilities, consumer goods, and so on.
There's an example in the sources of how this actually worked for someone, right?
Yeah.
Provided a buffer.
Yeah, exactly. Someone was pretty heavily invested in tech. They decided to diversify, added some utility stocks. Then the tech sector had a big downturn.
And the utilities helped.
Significantly, the stable performance of the utility stocks really helped lessen the overall damage to their portfolio. It showed that buffering effect in action.
Diversification sounds crucial for setting up the portfolio.
Okay.
But the sources say that's not enough on its own. You need active risk management, too.
Absolutely. Diversification is step one. But you also need ongoing strategies to handle uncertainty, like clearly setting your investment objectives. Are you aiming for aggressive growth, or preserving capital, or generating income? Your goals dictate how much risk is appropriate.
And you can't just set it and forget it.
Definitely not. Regular portfolio reviews are critical. Markets change, your life changes, your goals might shift. You need to periodically check if your strategy and your holdings still make sense.
Any specific tools for managing risk day to day?
They mention things like stop-loss orders. That's where you set a price, and if an investment drops to that price, it automatically sells, limiting your potential losses on that specific holding.
And keeping the overall balance right over time.
That's asset allocation and rebalancing. Regularly checking the mix of assets in your portfolio, your stocks versus bonds versus real estate, etc., and adjusting it back to your target percentages. This often means selling some winners and buying some losers, which sounds counterintuitive.
But keeps you aligned with your risk tolerance.
Exactly. Keeps you on track with your strategy.
And there's a personal story here, too, illustrating why both diversification and risk management matter.
Yes, someone shared how they initially chased high returns by concentrating everything in volatile tech stocks. They got some gains, sure, but the ride was incredibly stressful.
Roller coaster.
Big time. So they shifted, diversified across different sectors and asset types, set clearer risk rules for themselves, and found their overall returns became much more stable, much more predictable. It brought peace of mind.
So wise investing is about smart structure and active oversight. Okay, shifting gears a bit, the sources also stress that this isn't just about money moves, it's about you, the individual. Continuous personal growth.
Yes, they position continuous learning as fundamental, not just getting financially smarter, but expanding your overall capacity to earn, to manage, to grow wealth. And reading is specifically highlighted.
Why reading? What are the specific benefits they point out?
Well, it helps you stay current. The financial world moves fast. It helps you gain new strategies, learning from experts, maybe books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or The Intelligent Investor.
Classic examples.
Right. And it provides inspiration. Reading stories of people who built wealth, often overcoming challenges, can really reignite your own motivation.
There's an example of a book that really changed someone's whole view of wealth, isn't there?
Yes, reading The Millionaire Next Door. It was apparently transformative for one person. It shattered that image of millionaires being flashy and instead showed many are just frugal, disciplined people living below their means, consistently saving and investing. That insight completely changed their own approach.
Yeah. Beyond reading, what else do the sources connect to personal growth and wealth?
Building your network, surrounding yourself with successful, supportive people. These relationships, they argue, provide insights, accountability, and maybe even opportunities you just wouldn't find on your own.
How do they suggest you actually do that, cultivate that network?
Things like attending relevant networking events, workshops, conferences, joining online communities, LinkedIn groups, forums related to finance or your industry, maybe finding a mentor, someone who's already achieved what you're aiming for.
And working with peers.
Yeah, collaborating with peers, maybe on projects or just for mutual accountability, bouncing ideas around.
Is there a personal reflection on networking's impact?
Someone mentioned joining a local investment club and just being in regular conversation with others who had different experiences and perspectives dramatically sped up their learning curve and helped them refine their own investment strategy.
So reading and networking, powerful tools for growth. Now, there's something the sources bring up that often gets overlooked in financial discussions: health and well-being.
Absolutely critical. And the argument is straightforward. You just can't effectively pursue wealth if you're not well physically or mentally. It's your fundamental capacity to operate.
How exactly does health impact the financial journey, according to these sources?
Well, directly through productivity and efficiency. Good health means more energy, better focus. That translates to better work performance, clearer thinking for financial decisions. Also, reducing medical costs. Poor health is expensive. Preventative care and healthy habits save money in the long run. And critically, mental clarity, stress, anxiety, they cloud your judgment, lead to impulsive decisions, or maybe missing good opportunities because you're too overwhelmed.
There's an example of this connection in the material.
Yes, someone talked about pushing through a really stressful period, long hours, no exercise, bad sleep, and their financial decisions during that time, erratic, poorly thought out. It reflected their state.
And when they changed,
When they finally prioritized well-being, exercise, sleep, managing stress, their energy came back, their focus improved, and crucially, their ability to make sound, rational financial decisions returned.
so self-care isn't a luxury, it's actually foundational for financial success.
That's exactly how the sources position it. They suggest consistent routines, regular exercise, even 30 minutes a day, mindfulness or meditation to manage stress, good nutrition. Adequate sleep 7 to 9 hours is the usual recommendation, and maintaining social connections for emotional support.
And the personal takeaway on this.
Making consistent self-care exercise, mindfulness part of the routine didn't just feel better physically. The improved focus and emotional regulation directly led to better financial discipline and decision-making.
Health, the invisible bedrock.
Okay.
Now let's talk about action, taking calculated risks.
Right. This isn't about gambling. It's about making well-informed decisions when the outcome isn't certain. Sometimes building wealth means stepping outside your comfort zone.
How do you evaluate those opportunities? What's the process the sources suggest?
First, research thoroughly. Get the data. Understand the market, the potential downsides, the realistic upside. Second, assess your own situation. Can you actually afford to take this risk? Does it fit your long-term goals? Can you handle it if it goes wrong?
Know yourself, know the risk.
Exactly. Third, understand the risk-reward ratio. Weigh the potential gain against the potential loss. Is the potential reward worth the risk you're taking? And fourth, if possible, start small, test the waters, don't bet the farm on something new.
There's an example of someone taking this kind of calculated step.
Yes, an opportunity came up to invest in a startup. Instead of just jumping in or dismissing it, they did the research, checked their finances, saw the risk-reward, and invested a modest amount they could afford to lose.
It worked out.
In that case, yes, it paid off. But importantly, even if it hadn't, the process provided valuable learning.
But taking risks, even calculated ones, brings up a big barrier for a lot of people.
Oh yeah, fear of failure.
Yeah.
The sources acknowledge this is huge. It can paralyze you, stop you from taking perfectly reasonable risks that could lead to growth. Overcoming it is vital.
So how do you conquer that fear? What strategies do they offer?
One is to reframe failure. See it not as the end, but as learning, as data. Every successful person has failed. Another is visualize success, mentally rehearse a positive outcome to build confidence. Also, set realistic expectations. Understand that not every risk will pay off. That reduces the pressure.
And having support.
Crucial. Build a support system. Surround yourself with positive, encouraging people you can talk to about your fears and plans.
There's a story about launching a business and facing that fear.
Yes, someone felt intense fear before starting their own business, so they actively sought out mentors, people who'd done similar things. Hearing their stories, including their failures and what they learned, helped reframe the fear. It wasn't a stop sign anymore, but part of the process. That was empowering.
Facing fear, taking smart risks, essential for growth. Okay, finally, the sources shift focus again to something broader, giving back. Philanthropy.
Yeah, and it's presented not just as something nice to do after you're wealthy, but as an integral part of a meaningful financial journey, a mindset of positive impact.
Why is giving back seen as so important in this context?
Well, it helps foster community relationships, connecting with others through shared purpose-built support networks. It provides deep personal fulfillment, a sense of meaning beyond just money. It can inspire others. Setting an example creates ripples. And practically speaking,
Tax benefits.
the sources do mention that strategic giving can offer tax advantages, making it a financially smart move as well.
There's a story about community building through giving.
Someone mentioned participating in a charity run, and the surprising sense of camaraderie and shared motivation with others working towards the same goal was really powerful. It reinforced that connection.
So how do you make giving back a regular part of life, not just a one-off?
They emphasize it doesn't have to be huge donations. Consistency matters more. Find causes you're passionate about. Volunteer your time regularly, even just a bit. Create a giving budget. Dedicate a certain percentage or amount each month. Support local businesses that are committed to the community. Even simple acts of kindness count.
There's a nice anecdote about making giving systematic.
Yes, someone decided to budget for a local food bank donation every single month, just like paying a bill. Making it automatic and occasionally seeing the impact firsthand when dropping off donations really strengthened their commitment and connection, much more than random giving ever did.
Giving back adds purpose. Okay, wrapping up, the sources bring it back to ongoing management, reviewing and adjusting your plan.
Absolutely essential. Life changes constantly. Income, expenses, family, the economy. Your financial plan can't be static. You have to periodically check in and make sure it still fits, that it's still working for you.
What are the practical steps for doing that review?
Set specific review intervals, maybe quarterly, semi-annually, whatever works, but schedule it. Then reassess your goals themselves. Are they still relevant? Have priorities shifted? The example given was someone saving for a car who then started a family and shifted focus to a bigger emergency fund.
Makes sense. What else?
Track your progress. Use your tools, spreadsheets, apps to see how far you've come. That visual can be really motivating, or maybe a necessary wake-up call. And, importantly, celebrate milestones. Acknowledge your successes along the way. It reinforces the positive habits.
And after reviewing, you often need to adjust. What kind of adjustments do they talk about?
Maybe diversifying investments further if things aren't working, or your risk tolerance changes.
Yeah.
Definitely updating your budget as income or expenses change. Adjusting your emergency fund contributions based on current living costs the classic 3 to 6 months of expenses guideline.
And if it gets complicated?
Seek professional advice. If you're feeling overwhelmed or your situation gets complex, don't hesitate to consult a qualified financial advisor. They can offer valuable perspective.
So it's really not a straight line. It's a dynamic process.
Exactly. Constant learning, doing, reviewing, adapting. That's the journey.
Okay, let's do a quick recap of everything we've covered from these sources. We started with the foundations understanding assets versus liabilities, the need for financial literacy. Then the power of daily habits tracking, learning, networking. Setting smart financial goals, both short and long term. Creating that financial blueprint through budgeting and tracking. Growing money by investing wisely, diversification, and risk management. The importance of continuous personal growth via reading and networking. Prioritizing health and well-being as a core capacity. Embracing opportunity through calculated risks and overcoming fear, finding purpose through giving back, and finally, the crucial step of regularly reviewing and adjusting your plans.
Yeah, it's clear from all this material that wealth building is. It's holistic, it's ongoing. It's not just about the money figure at the end. It's about acquiring assets, sure, but it's equally about the habits, the knowledge, your well-being, the smart risks, the impact you have, and staying flexible.
So thinking about all this for you, the listener, if wealth building really is a journey, not just a destination, what does that imply about the process itself? Could the discipline, the learning, the connections, the well-being you gain along the way, could that be a form of wealth? What's one small habit or maybe just a shift in perspective that you could explore starting today to make that ongoing journey even richer?